Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
I really enjoy the RPOs in the way that it puts a defense in a bind.
And Brandan Schultz.
Why are we stuck doing your work for you?
Go Hawks!
This is episode 191 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. Joining me, Montana Seahawker, my good buddy, Adam Emmert.
Good to be with you on this snowy day, Brandan, because it is snowy and cold and terrible outside, 11 degrees blowing. This is my one activity for the day, and then I'm going to Netflix and try not to chill. Try to stay warm instead.
Yeah, 11 degrees with 20-mile-an-hour gusting winds. That doesn't sound appealing for outdoor activities to you?
No, I'm out today.
That's why today's the perfect day to talk Seahawks, and not only talk Seahawks, Adam, but we're going to be talking Super Bowl. We're going to be talking about the 2018 NFL Draft. Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com, coming on the show today. Always an exciting time of year. We can start ramping up to the draft, and maybe we're a little late to the game here, but we're going to be talking offensive line. We're going to be talking running backs, and Rob is going to be talking and telling us about how he watches the combine. So maybe we can take some notes and figure out how we're supposed to do this the right way.
He's the only one I trust. He's the only realist when it comes to talking about what happens with the Seahawks in the draft and all that. He's the only person that I think has any sort of insight whatsoever that tries that exercise.
Yeah, and if we find another one, we'll absolutely bring that person on.
Yeah, we'll have him too, or her. Yeah.
This is the time of year to talk draft.
So we're going to talk a little draft with Rob, and thank God, because there's not a lot else to talk about. I mean, other than the big Russell Wilson trade.
Yeah.
Now,
that was a fun game to play on Friends, right? Text him, oh my gosh, I did this with my wife too. Russell Wilson got traded.
Did she find it amusing?
Well, she knows enough about football to know that the Seahawks aren't going to trade Russell Wilson.
She also knows you're full of catfish half the time too.
It's probably true. Because I probably would, unless I would have had like tears streaming down my cheeks. If I were a good enough actor to pull off how I would actually feel about a Russell Wilson trade, then she would have known that something was really wrong.
You've just been screaming into the phone like, Russell, no.
I probably wouldn't have casually announced it to her the way I did.
In between sobs?
I know that there was the NFL.com app tried to catfish some people, clickbait some people into, because it said Russell Wilson traded, and then it had like a ... and then the rest of the words were kind of cut off on the announcement. So if anybody got that, the NFL.com app alerts,
right.
You might have been worried for a second.
No, it's true. And that's the little game they play with all these craptastic headlines that I've been seeing over the last few days.
But other people are better at it too. Like you see Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk just taking it one step further. Now, if you hadn't heard, Russell Wilson did get traded, yes, but it was from the Texas Rangers to the New York Yankees on a baseball thing of, when he wants to play baseball in the offseason or just pretend to play dress up.
Can I just say I hate that it's the Yankees?
It didn't make me feel any better when it was the Rangers. So
no, it did. It did make me feel better. Really? I hate the Yankees.
Oh,
they might be my most hated sports franchise. Like in all the sports, they represent everything that's wrong with sport. Like just to go out and buy a championship every year crap. Like I can't stand it. I can't stand the arrogance and the way New Yorkers are all so hoity-toity about their freaking Yankees. Screw the Yankees, dude. I hate them.
So Russell Wilson traded, but Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, he took it one step further and tried to draw the conclusion that Russell Wilson orchestrating this trade from the Rangers to the Yankees was somehow a ploy to get back into contract discussions with his football contract, because with all these crazy deals going on, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo become the highest paid player in the NFL. With all these deals going on, Russell Wilson, this is his way of angling into a new contract negotiation.
Dude, is he high again? Did he fall off the wagon? Is he doing the heroin all the time now?
That seems like a really big stretch.
You think? Wow. That's some conspiracy theory garbage right there. That's almost like saying Elon Musk's Tesla flying across outer space right now. Like the pictures that came back were all fake because the Earth is still flat. Like if you looked at that and we're like still like, oh no, that crap's all fake.
Oh, well, it's green screened. Didn't you haven't seen that?
Right. That's it. If you believe in that kind of conspiracy, like that's where Mike Florio went with this. That's about as far-fetched. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
He might as well just said he's trying to force a trade to the Giants.
I don't understand it because I don't understand how that gives a player
any kind of leverage.
Yeah, it gives him no leverage. He can't say, "Oh, I'm going to go play baseball for the Yankees." No, the Yankees aren't going to pay him to play in the major leagues.
Not like he's getting paid to play quarterback.
So what leverage is there?
None. Do you think Florio's bored?
I think he tries to stir stuff up. It's the offseason. He has a 3-hour show every day he has to fill content with.
Yeah. You get the whole league to talk about.
Yeah.
That would be easy.
It would be easier.
Yes.
But every single day, you have to stir some things up to try and make things interesting.
I don't know. I think I can find headlines around the league every day.
For 3 hours?
For 3 hours. Most of those shows that are on for like 3 hours are fairly repetitive.
But he doesn't even, I don't think he really takes calls a whole lot either. I know like some of those shows, they just cycle callers through. I listen to the NFL on the Sirius XM once in a while on my way to work. And you get to listen to ads and you get to listen to telephone calls of people calling in and asking questions. And that's essentially the show.
Radio's amazing, isn't it? You know what else I don't want to hear about, Brandon? Are headlines like this one. Is Malcolm Butler a good fit for the Seahawks?
I don't want to hear that. Why did you say that out loud?
I thought maybe that was a rhetorical question, so I clicked on the article. Just thinking, well, maybe they know better, right?
Yeah.
Nope. Trying to make an argument of like, why, dude, you can stop right at his name.
Yeah.
There is no way I'm cheering for Malcolm Catfish Butler.
I don't even want him to come to a team in the division. I don't want to see him twice a year.
I hope he washes out of the league, not because I have any animosity towards him, but just for my don't want to hear his name sanity anymore. I just don't.
Could you imagine? No, I don't even want to bring it up.
I mean, could you imagine that though?
No, it would suck.
Malcolm Butler starting across from Richard Sherman, or Richard Sherman's gone and Malcolm Butler is in his place.
Let's take this to a brighter spot. The only way it makes it better is if he returns the Seahawks to the Super Bowl and he's in the position to intercept a game-winning pass and run it for a touchdown.
And then misses it and Tom Brady wins.
Stop. I'm cutting that part out.
That's how that would work.
That's not how it works.
We live in a world where Nick Foles beat Tom Brady for a championship. That's happened now.
Joe Flacco-esque playoff performance by Nick Foles, and he gets to hoist the Lombardi.
It's very Flacco-y.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay Nick Foles?
So Anthony and I were talking about this earlier this week. Mm-hmm. Do the Eagles trade Nick Foles?
Yeah.
That's what I said.
You don't think Carson Wentz is going to be injury prone his whole career?
No.
So, I mean, you just bring in some other dude, and yeah, you strike while the iron's hot, man.
Heck yeah, you do.
He's going to be, my guess is, he's going to be a Minnesota Viking. That history is already there of the Vikings trading with the Eagles for their quarterback or backup to Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and they have 3 free agent quarterbacks. All 3 of those guys. Right. Sam Bradford, Teddy Bridgewater.
Sam Bradford's done. Like, if he needs to be holding a clipboard somewhere and nothing else.
He'll go to Arizona.
Oh, God, yeah, that could happen. Although, that could be Captain Kirk down there. But we'll see.
I don't think they have the money.
I don't know. Denver, though. I think he'd go there. But anyway, I think Nick Foles ends up in Minnesota because you're out on Sam Bradford, of course. Like his knee, like he can't play a season.
He won't play in Minnesota. No, it'll be if they bring anybody back, it'll be Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, maybe both.
I bet you they bring Teddy back and then get somebody else. They didn't, dude. Zimmer did not like Keenum all year. Like he never would give him like a ringing endorsement. Never.
Wouldn't shock me.
I think Keenum's gone. I think they keep Teddy. They bring in another guy, and they have a competition. Because you can't trust Teddy's knee completely yet.
Oh, no.
I'd love to.
Now we're starting to see where these quarterbacks are shaking out because Jimmy Garoppolo gets signed to the biggest contract in NFL history. I was a little surprised it was that high.
Why? He's the next young quarterback to get paid. It's always the most. And the next one will be the most. And then the next one after that will be the most again.
So Cousins is going to be the most.
That's how it works. That's how it's like Russell Wilson. Wasn't Russell Wilson the most at one point?
No, he was. They still got him in under Rodgers. And I think a big part of that was due to the fact that he was coming off his rookie deal, so he still had 1 year left, so the team still had a little bit of leverage. So they kind of got a friendlier type deal, yeah.
But it was close.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, if he would have been on the end of at the end of his rookie deal, yeah, they would have had no choice.
That's just how it works. I'm not surprised that Jimmy G got paid. That's what you do. If you're the Niners, you got oodles of cap space. He played well at the end. You're undefeated when he starts. Give the man his money.
Are you worried about them at all now? Next year?
In a word, no.
With Garoppolo, I think they could be a 500 team at least.
With one off season of tape to watch 5 Garoppolo starts, I think he's going to have a much harder go of it next season.
Okay.
And Carlos Hyde is going to be gone because he could be the starting running back for the Seattle Seahawks next year.
That's right. I've seen a lot of people talking about Hyde as a Seahawk.
I would not be sad about that.
Yeah.
I think he's a super talented guy.
You give him Eddie Lacy money?
Hell yeah, I'd give him Eddie Lacy money. That was yeah. That's a guy you actually pay.
Yeah.
I like that idea. You know the other idea I like is that after watching the Super Bowl, maybe we try some of these run pass option thingies.
Yeah, RPOs. That's the big acronym.
Right. I didn't want to say RPO like Collinsworth, like I was being super fancy and cool.
Yeah, you have to do that now. RPO.
So I really enjoy the RPOs in the way that it puts a defense in a bind.
We've seen it.
Yeah, in the past. But like what was for like 2 games?
They don't do it. I
remember being like super excited about it, you know? Like they would do the read option, then the receiver would leak out and Russell would toss it down.
Well, it would usually result in Jermaine Kearse being offsides.
No, but I think that's the type of ingenious stuff that we need to run with a quarterback that plays a different style of ball than pocket quarterback. Like, I mean, he can do pocket quarterback stuff if you give him a pocket thingy, but he's dynamic doing some other things. Look, I mean, if it makes Nick Foles over 700-yard thrower in 2 games in the playoffs and beats Tom Brady for a Super Bowl, what do you think Russell Wilson could do with a scheme like that? And the run game seemed to work out of it too. This is the type of creativity I want. I don't think I'm going to see that out of a Brian Schottenheimer.
Well, Adam, what do you say we get into our interview with Rob Staton? Let's talk about the 2018 draft because it's coming up.
Thank God Rob's here to rescue us. Here to save the day from across the pond.
Here
Rob
he comes
Staton.
to save the day. Mr. Yes. Rob Staton. This week on the show, we welcome back Rob Staton of SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Rob, how you doing?
Really good, guys. You know, this is a great time of the year if you are into the draft and the NFL. So really looking forward to getting into the combine and seeing what the Seahawks are going to do because it kind of feels like it's going to be a significant offseason this year.
So, Rob, I have a quick question. With this now being, this is your season, right? The offseason is your season. I want to know what you changed in your offseason regimen coming into this season to be better prepared. Like every year, Russell Wilson's working on like his quickness. Maybe he's getting, a little stronger. What is it? What did you work on this year in the offseason?
Okay, so this year I'm working on the fact that we now have 2 kids instead of 1. So trying to manage doing everything that I've done in the past, but having to get up a little bit earlier every day and handle 2 kids. But no, seriously, I think what I'm preparing for now is just the most interesting off-season that I think is probably going to happen since I started doing the blog, which is nearly 10 years now, where we're going to see the greatest group of Seahawks players ever potentially broken up and then rebuilt. And for me in the past, I've had to just sort of concentrate on a position, maybe that one need, like whether it was offensive line or a pass rusher or somebody like that, or a safety. And then this year, it kind of feels like they may need about 5 or 6 different positions to fill. So kind of watching a lot more stuff and trying to broaden the kind of players that I'm looking at.
So when you think of significant changes, Rob, are you talking about, guys, there's a lot of guys coming up on the final year of their deal. Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, you have Michael Bennett under contract. Are you thinking that the Seahawks are going to be trading some of these players who are under contract for draft picks? Because we don't have a second and third pick this year.
Well, one way or another, they're probably going to get picks in the second day of the draft, whether that means trading down from number 18 or trying to accumulate some picks or maybe even doing both. I don't have any idea what they're going to do. I mean, the thing is it's going to be so interesting to see what happens next, whether or not they start cutting people, whether certain players are going to retire, whether they actually go through with trades for people like Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman. I mean, all of this stuff has been speculated, and people like John Clayton, for example, are saying that Michael Bennett's going to be released within the month, and G. Scott's been saying similar things, and you can't ignore that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come true, but you still have to acknowledge that that kind of stuff is out there. So we may see a very, very different Seahawks team, and it may mean that they have a lot more draft stock. From a personal point of view, I think it's just a little bit sad that they're having to replace picks rather than add picks.
Yeah, those 710 ESPN guys are hyping all the kinds of changes in the offseason. But you know what? Let's go back to the last offseason because, we never checked in with you, Rob, after last year's draft class. And I think now would be a good time to do it because the season's over. You've had a chance to see what these guys did in the past season. What are some of your thoughts on last year's draft class? Who impressed you out of that group?
Well, there were some players who ultimately were impressive. I think that as the season went on, he's got a lot of praise already. I think that as the season went on, you saw real progress from Shaq Griffin. I thought that at the start he had some moments where you thought, I'm not sure the positivity warrants, given what he's been actually doing on the field. But I think as the year went on, you started to see some real progress from him, and he looks as if he's somebody you can say, okay, with some degree of confidence, he's going to be a starter for the Seahawks for a few years. Obviously, Naz Jones had a really good rookie year. Was really impressed with what he brought to the table there, and his impact as not just an interior pass rusher, but someone who can hold up against the run, I think was really positive. So they're the two players really that you can be positive about, as well as Chris Carson. I suppose you can't really forget him. He got injured, but showed a lot of progress before he got injured there. So he's another one that you hope that they're the three really that you look at and you feel quite positive about at this stage.
Of who's left, who do you think, who could you see making a jump next year? If you watched them at all in preseason or even remember, I mean, guys, I don't think Amara Darboh, we got to see him much during preseason, but you have some of the other guys in the secondary. Tedrick Thompson comes to mind.
Delano Hill.
It's hard to be overly optimistic about them because, for starters, they never really, the coaches weren't talking about them during the season. They never really were given opportunities. Delano Hill, for example, never really felt like he was going to get on the field, and they didn't use him as a big nickel. They didn't use him as a safety. When Cam and Earl were injured, it was Bradley McDougall who got the heads up, and it felt to me like he was a little bit underwhelming. Even when Cam Chancellor didn't start in 2010 as a rookie, they were still talking about Cam an awful lot, saying this is a guy, this guy's going to start for us, this guy's going to be a huge player for us in the future. They didn't do any of that with Delano Hill. Amara Darboh, again, there was an opening there for somebody to come in at receiver and have a bit of an impact, and he just didn't really take it. We've not seen any of Tedrick Thompson really, apart from some preseason games, and a bit harsh to judge him on that. The same with the likes of Tyson and David Moore. It's hard to get a feel for them. I thought that Ethan Posick had a bit of a struggling preseason, and then when the season began, I thought he was just okay. There was nothing that screamed from his play, this is a guy who you can pencil in on the offensive line for the next. This is a solution, for example, at one of the spots. And the fact that it took them so long to work out what position he actually wanted to play. At first, it was kind of like he may be a right tackle. Then he's a backup center. Then he's going to play a bit of right guard because Glowinski didn't work out. There was all sorts of movement there. And again, hard to really feel overly positive about his play, and Malik McDowell we didn't see any of, and you just hope that he's actually going to play football again.
With Posick, where would you put him on the offensive line? Do you think they're still going to struggle with that, or do you think they make a decision, especially with the new offensive coordinator, and say, you know what, you played right guard, this is your spot now, you're going to be a right guard?
When you watched him at LSU, one of the great things he did as a center was that it was just hard to get around him. He was got his hand placement in. He could snap the ball and then get into position and set. Not many people beat him, but what he didn't do was overpower guys. What he didn't do was necessarily get to the second level. What he wasn't was this great athlete. So he was very good at being a center. And when they brought him in, I thought it was because, well, here's your hedge on Justin Britt being out of contract. And if they don't want to pay Justin Britt the $9 million or whatever a year he's getting now, having signed the new deal, then Posick could be somebody who is the center, who's the heir apparent there, give him a redshirt year or play him at guard and then kick him inside. Then they obviously re-signed Justin Britt, and you're left wondering, well, he's not the overpowering guard. He's not the ultra-athletic guard. He's very tall. He looks like a tackle in terms of his body, and yet they tried him there, and he never really competed with Jermaine Ifedi to become the right tackle. So it's kind of hard to determine what he's going to be for the long term. And they use him at right guard. You have to presume that that's the position they're going to try him at the start of this year. But for me, that offensive line's in flux apart from the left tackle position. That's you expect Dwayne Brown's going to start there because they brought him in and he's the veteran and he's had a very accomplished career. But then the other 4 spots with a new coach coming in Mike Solari, how is he going to view those guys? How's he going to view Justin Britt and Posick and Afedi? Is he going to say, look, we need to make some changes here? And in a year when the draft is particularly strong on the interior offensive line, are some big decisions going to need to be made there as well as on the defense?
Well, that kind of takes me back, Rob, to one of the things that we talked about in past years, the trench explosion formula, which is something that you came up with based on some of the comments from Tom Cable on some of the things he looks for in terms of offensive linemen. I'm curious to find out if those are actual attributes that Tom Cable looks for, or if those are organizational John Schneider type attributes.
Sure, and there may even be attributes that the league just generally buys into. I mean, it could be kind of like a consensus view. I mean, if people aren't aware of what it is, essentially Tom Cable said he was asked at a town hall meeting what is the ideal physical profile for an offensive lineman, and it was, he has to have a certain vertical jump, he has to have a certain broad jump, and he has to be able to rep this many reps on the bench press. And we used that as a formula to see how that, if there was any correlation between the players Seattle had drafted and they all sort of hit a certain score, there was a minimum score that all of them topped. And then as the years have gone by, for example, Posick didn't reach that same level. They drafted him anyway, but he was one of the more explosive offensive linemen in the draft class. So there did seem to be something in it. It will be interesting to see if they go along with that again. I personally hope that they don't, because I think that one of my favorite players in the draft coming up this year is Isaiah Wynn at Georgia. And given the way that he tested in the night Spark Combine, he's probably going to be one of the worst TEF testers in the Combine if he actually works. I don't think he's actually going to work out there because he's got a torn labrum. But if he did, he would not test very well. Let's put it that way. And I would love to see him in Seattle playing left guard. So I'm not completely hoping that this is more than just a Tom Cable thing. The one thing I would say about the formula, though, is, and it is often missed, I think we've had this conversation before, is that people sort of thought that it was being used to determine who's good and who's bad. And It doesn't. All it determines is who's a certain explosive athlete and who isn't. And the one thing I'm looking forward to for using it again at the Combine is, if nothing else, it sort of highlights the difference between the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman, who are, you will get sort of like 30 really explosive defensive linemen and maybe 5 or less offensive linemen. And it highlights again how difficult it is to find offensive linemen in the draft who can match up to some of the monsters that are playing defensive line in college.
Well, I think back to Cam Robinson, who was one of those guys who didn't score all that great in terms of his athleticism and fit into the formula. And he had a fine rookie season with the Jaguars.
He certainly did. He played exactly how he did at Alabama, and he was very physical. I don't think that you would ever describe him as somebody who's going to match up well against the elite. If you put him up against Von Miller and like in a senior, when they did the 1v1s at the Senior Bowl, if you put him next to Von Miller or somebody like that, he would probably have a nightmare. But if you say to him, right, get up there, we're going to run the ball, we're going to run it 40 times a game, Cam Robinson can do that. And that is something that a lot of Seahawks fans will be hoping that's the kind of player that they're going to be looking at now, especially with this extra focus on the running game, given how miserable it's been in Seattle for the last 2 years.
Wait, so what you're trying to tell me here, Rob, is that you draft somebody who played left tackle in college and then play him at left tackle, and he plays like he did when he was in college? This is amazing, groundbreaking stuff. I can't believe that would actually work. I've been told you have to find like a kicker, have him put on about 85 to 185 pounds, and go out there and play left tackle. I was told that's the only way this works.
Hey, how much fun would it be if your job was to put on 185 pounds?
It'd be tasty. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have a lot of fun with that.
Can you use beer to put on that weight?
Why not?
Absolutely.
Well, Rob, the Senior Bowl was here recently, a couple weeks back. And looking at last year's Senior Bowl, the Seahawks drafted 3 players who played in last year's Senior Bowl. Amara Darboh, Ethan Posick, and Justin Senior. I'm curious who your top 3 candidates, from watching the Senior Bowl, who are 3 guys that you'd like to see from who played this year on the Seahawks in 2018?
Well, first name I would give is Darius Leonard, who is a linebacker at South Carolina State. He is he's been at a small school, and it kind of shows in some of his play. He's not as technically refined as somebody who maybe went to Alabama or Georgia, for example, and would benefit from the next level coaching. But in terms of what he is, wow, just what an incredible athletic talent, in great size, tenacity. He's got really long arms. That's something that they love about KJ Wright, is the length that he had. And he's got like 34-inch arms, Darius Leonard, which is going to be better than most defensive tackles who are at the combine in a few weeks. And he just did everything well in the workouts in the week. So they put him up, the linebackers against the running backs in like these little coverage drills, and have people like Rashad Penny and Akram Woodley, the really small, quick running back, and they have someone like Darius Leonard, who's 40 pounds heavier than them, go and try and cover them, and he was doing it. He was really, really sharp in the coverage drills. In the game, he absolutely hammered somebody on a little throw out to the flat on the right-hand side. He sprints across the field, delivers a huge hit. He just plays. It's almost like he's kind of got a Brandan Browner-style attitude to the way that he plays. And I think with the athleticism that he showed, I hope that he's going to – I've not seen whether he's actually got a combine invite. I presume that he has. And if he does test, then I think he's going to have a good workout. And I think that he's somebody that the Seahawks could still use one extra linebacker. And if they can find him in the middle rounds, and it is somebody who can maybe slip in if Wright or Wagner are injured, but can also play a little bit of Sam as well, then I think someone like Leonard is somebody that you can, if you're going to change the identity of the defense, he's somebody that you get in, you coach up. You said a Ken Norton Jr., here's your first guy to work with now that you're back in Seattle. So I think that he's somebody that is worth paying attention to. I think they're going to have to
now, wait a second, Rob. I think with the linebackers, though, the problem is Adam and I have already fallen in love with Shaquem Griffin as a potential linebacker for the Seahawks. So I don't know if I can get on board with another name.
Well, you can have both.
Okay,
If they're going to acquire all these picks, they're going to have to spend them on somebody.
I suppose so. Yeah, well, it looks like Leonard got his combine invite too, so we will get to see what he has.
Great. Yeah, really interesting play. Keep an eye on him. I think they are going to have to draft they're probably going to have to draft a tight end at some point. I mean, I don't think Jimmy Graham's going to be back. Certainly the noise seems to be that he's going to go somewhere else and maybe doesn't even want to be back in Seattle. Luke Wilson is a free agent as well, so they're going to have to do something at the position. There's a guy called Durham Smythe who is at Notre Dame. He is the best Y tight end in the draft. There's a lot of blocking at Notre Dame, has kind of got the blocking attitude of an offensive lineman and really did a good job there. But he's not just a blocker. I mean, you saw at the Senior Bowl, especially in the game, he was one of the guys who made a really great touchdown reception from Josh Allen when he came out in the second half and was throwing it all around the field and making big plays. He had a number of catches in the game, in the workouts, in the final workout, which was on the Thursday. Smythe, for me, looked better than any of the other tight ends, like Jasicki and people like that who are working out there. So if the Seahawks want somebody who is kind of like in the Zach Miller mold, who's got a great personality, great attitude, the kind of guy that you want to bring in, I think that he's somebody there. The only problem is his arms are very short, and if you're blocking and if that's going to be your main responsibility, it could be a little bit of concern. Nick Vanette's got incredible length, and I think that's one of the reasons why they really liked him. Smythe is the complete opposite of that, but everything else that he does in terms of what you see on the film is pretty good, and I can imagine him being a player that they really like. And then, well, from the other players that you could mention, I think really I could give you a few names on the defensive line that they may show some interest in, that showed some potential there. I thought Isaiah Wynn at Georgia was, I mentioned him earlier, is a terrific player. I think if there was any player who had the best week, the best player at the Senior Bowl, it wasn't Baker Mayfield, it wasn't Josh Allen, it wasn't any of the other players. It was Isaiah Wynn. And if the Seahawks find a way to get Isaiah Wynn into Seattle during this draft, whether that's the late first round or the early second round, they're not going to regret that. This is a guy who's going to come into the league. He's going to be really steady. You're not going to notice him because he's just going to do his job really, really well. And I think if you could put Dwayne Brown alongside Isaiah Wynn, then the Seahawks offensive line will just take a huge step forward next year.
So, Rob, have you been looking at guys here over the past few weeks and that sort of thing? Have you noticed anybody out of the running backs that you think is somebody that the Seahawks would target? Because you hear a lot of people saying that we need to draft a running back, that we need to upgrade the running back position. I tend to disagree. I think we've got all the guys except for Eddie Lacy, the only guy that couldn't play, that could run behind like an actual offensive line if you had one. But a lot of people are calling for running back. So is there anybody that stands out to you?
Yeah, I think this is a really good draft. If nothing else, I think you kind of have to take one just because of the quality of the running back class. It's definitely the strongest position in the draft overall. I think it'd be wise to at least take one. And the options for me are really strong in the first sort of 2 or 3 rounds. So the two that I think maybe stand out for the most for Seattle is Ronald Jones, the second at USC. Is just an incredible player. He's very, very underrated. Now, some of the national pundits, like, for example, Daniel Jeremiah, I think has him as like the 11th player on his big board. I think Lance Zierlein's got him in a similar range. People have started to put him in that range. I thought that there was like 11 legit first-round prospects in the draft when I did my piece and put Ronald Jones in there. I think he's a top 15 player who's getting graded sort of in the late first, early second round. So if he lasts to that range and you can trade down and maybe consider taking Ronald Jones in the late first or the early second, I think you're going to get an incredible player. What a perfect complement. If you want to get a running game like the Saints have got with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, then this guy can be Alvin Kamara for him. He's an incredible player. I think he's so tough and physical despite his size, really quick, really explosive, just a fantastic player. I think that Ronald Jones is going to be superb. And I think the other one that they may look at, and I think he's being maybe knocked a little bit because of the injury, and then it's taken him a couple of years to get back up to speed. But I think Nick Chubb in Georgia, people forget how much of an athlete he was. When he was at the Nike Spark Combine, he did a workout that was as good as Kristen Michael. He's that type of athlete, but without any of the issues that Kristen Michael had, which is, essentially he uses his brain a little bit more, and he can focus, and he can he can actually stay in tune with things, and also very, very tough runner. So I think that there are two that you could like about. Listen, I could give you also. I really like Kerryon Johnson. His patience in the backfield, very similar to Le'Veon Bell. A lot of people like Sony Michel. I think he's a bit of a Maurice Morris type player, but a lot of people like him. Rashad Penny's perfectly good at San Diego State. Darius Geis is just a bundle of energy, very similar to Thomas Rawls in terms of style that may put off the Seahawks, but on the other hand, they really liked Rawls. So, he's another player that they may consider. It's a really, really fun, talented running back class, and I don't think the Seahawks will be any worse off for having added one of these guys to their roster for next year.
You see a lot of these mock drafts where the Seahawks are going after positions in the secondary. Do you see a strong group of players in the secondary, or maybe is that a weakness of this draft, and that's just at the number 18 pick? If you're going to get somebody good, that's where you have to go.
I think it's a serious weakness in the draft. There just aren't the cornerbacks and the safeties this year that we've maybe seen in previous years. We had a safety go in the top 5 last year. That's not going to happen this year. I know a lot of people like Minka Fitzpatrick and Derwin James. I think they're a little bit overrated. Fitzpatrick he's very much, people see him as like a cornerback / safety. I think he's a safety. I think his range is fairly limited. He's sort of best when in tight quarters. So when he gets into the red zone, he's very good in coverage, but not quite as impactful when, he's not going to take away the post, for example, like Earl Thomas does. And then Derwin James, for me, is kind of an Eric Reed type of athlete and player. And Eric Reed's had a decent career in San Francisco, but he's not Cam Chancellor, and he's not, I don't think he's going to tilt the field necessarily in your favor having him. And I think he's probably going to go sort of mid to late first instead of top 15, like a lot of people have suggested. At cornerback, you've got people like Denzel Ward, who were okay at Ohio State, not Marshawn Lattimore or Gary and Conley level player. But a lot of people think he's going to have a fantastic combine, and if that happens, he will get pumped up as the best cornerback. Joshua Jackson had a lot of plays at Iowa, could go relatively early. I like Anthony Averett at Alabama, but I think he's going to be more of a second, third round type. But it's not the kind of class that I think you attack that position early like it was last year when there was all those great cornerbacks and everyone was talking about the great depth at cornerback. It's definitely not that this year. And I think a lot of people are projecting that for the Seahawks because they anticipate change. They think that Cam Chancellor is going to retire and Richard Sherman might be gone and Earl Thomas might be gone. And if that actually happens, get ready, because every mock draft between now and April is going to have the Seahawks taking a cornerback or a safety. And the thing that maybe people forget is that the history of this team, they've only taken one defensive back in the first 2 rounds, and that was Earl Thomas, who's going to be a future Hall of Famer. The other players that they've taken, Cam Chancellor 5th round, Richard Sherman 5th round, Brandon Browner came from the Canadian Football League, Shaq Griffin's 3rd round, Jeremy Lane's 6th round, Justin Coleman plucked him from the Patriots. This is not a team that has gone out and spent big on the secondary, and I think what they will do, they're much more likely to look at someone like Jesse Bates III at Wake Forest on the 2nd or 3rd day at safety to replace Earl Thomas as they are to go after someone like Minka Fitzpatrick. So I think that's what they're going to do. I think probably defense in the last day, and Pete Carroll will back his judgment and his ability to coach defensive players up. Running game, offensive line, that kind of focus, I think, early in the draft is what I would expect.
Well, one of the things that kind of has me hyped up a little bit is that we don't usually pick in the top 20. The last time we had picks in the top 20, I think back to, well, Earl Thomas would be one of them. Russell Okung was another one. And then Bruce Irvin, I guess, was the only other one when they trade back from number 12. And I think they got him around 15. So the Seahawks have done pretty well when they have a pick in the top 20. Do you see him staying in that spot?
It's possible. I mean, if they were to, for example, make some trades, get the second and third round picks, or even get another round one pick if it's Earl Thomas who moves on, then yeah, there's every chance of that. I think it's unlikely that what they would do is take one player at number 18 and then not pick again until the middle of the fourth round. You know, that seems like an incredible amount of time to wait, and I can't imagine John Schneider sort of in that war room, you know, during the draft, sort of watching all these players go off in rounds 2 and 3 and thinking, yeah, this is fine, this is cool, you know, I'm enjoying this, I can't wait till our next pick in round 4. So I think that they probably are going to have to find some way to get some picks to fill that big hole that's currently there. But if they do that before the draft begins in whatever means possible, then yeah, you know, by all means, sort of look who's there. And listen, there are some players that I'd really love to consider at number 18. You know, there's definitely really talented players that you can get at number 18. I think most of them come on the interior offensive line, to be perfectly honest.
We need guys at that spot.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. You know, if you're happy with that, if people want to do that, then that's great. I mean, if you could get Billy Price, for example, from Ohio State, and yeah, you know, he played center last year, could play a bit of guard, but listen, I mean, I'm not one of these people who are big against Justin Britt and want to cut Justin Britt right now and do all this. But for me, if you can say we can have Billy Price for the next 10 years or you can have Justin Britt for the next 7, I'll take Billy Price. You know, I just think that you're talking about somebody who is just all in on football and is just incredibly tenacious, passionate, physical, smacks people in the face, great athleticism. He's going to have a great combine when that comes around. You know, I just think that he's just awesome. I mean, he's like one of the Pouncey brothers. That's the level of talent that you're talking about with him. I think Isaiah Wynn warrants a pick in that kind of a range. I mean, that's the kind of quality of player he is. And I think there's 1 or 2 others as well that could go in there. I'm not against going defense early, but I think that's kind of the option then. If they do get other picks and they're really serious about improving this running game, then maybe you stay at 18 and you take one of those guys.
All right, Rob, well, you mentioned the combine coming up. What are you going to be looking for?
It's a good question. I think the first and foremost is you know, there are some trends amongst about the types of positions the Seahawks pick. So we've got enough evidence now, for example, at the linebacker position to sort of say this is generally the kind of player the Seahawks are looking for. And it comes down to things like short shuttle times and athleticism. You know, they've got very much a trend there. So I'm going to be looking for the trends again and trying to identify players that the Seahawks may consider, because I think that's, you know, more often than not, we've found over the years that by looking for the trends, you can kind of see the players who they may be interested in. And quite a few of those players have actually ended up being Seahawks. So it's worth doing. And there are trends on the offensive line. There are trends at running back. There are trends at linebacker and defensive back with the length and the types of player they take. So you can narrow the field down into potential targets. And that's one thing I always look for. I think more than anything, I think Friday is going to be the day that I spend most of my time on. You know, I booked the day off work. I'm going to be just tuned in to the NFL Network. I'm going to be watching that and really getting into these offensive linemen and the running backs, because I think that the Seahawks will, and look, weekend's going to be very interesting to see which defensive players emerge as possible targets and who really impresses and who may be the next group that come in to try and rebuild this defense and have another go at this over the next few years. But I think more than anything, the way that Pete Carroll was talking in his end of season press conference, he feels that this team cannot go on any longer having a running game that is in like 30th in the league or whatever it was. That's 2 years in a row now where they just haven't got the running game going. So I'm going to be watching these offensive linemen, seeing if some of these interior offensive linemen live up to expectations in terms of their power and their agility and how good they are, and also having a look at these running backs and see which ones fit the Seahawks and who they may or may not be likely to go to. I think one of the players I'm most interested in seeing is Nick Chubb, just because I know he can be such a good athlete. He had that really serious knee injury. He's come back now, looked a lot more explosive in 2017 than he did in 2016. I want to see if this guy's back to his level of athleticism before he had that injury, because if he is, people are going to start talking about him as a very early pick. If not, then maybe he's going to present some value in rounds 3 or 4.
And that's Nick Chubb, the running back from Georgia. And he kind of fits the height profile that, you know, 5'10". It's kind of about the height Seahawks look for in terms of running back.
in many ways, he is very much an ideal type of prototype for the Seahawks. He's got the exact size that they go for. He is very, very explosive, and that's something they've always gone for, is explosive power rather than speed. You know, a lot of their running backs are not like 4.3, 4.4 runners, but they were incredibly explosive, which means they were good in the jumps, they were good in the bench press and stuff like that. And he is all football. He's 24/7 football. You know, he's the second most productive running back in SEC history. To come back from the injury he did, and to stay for the full time at Georgia, and to help them get to the national championship and almost win a national championship. You know, that Georgia team is full of players. You know, I mentioned Chubb, Isaiah Wynn. There's a linebacker called Lorenzo Carter, Javon Wims, the receiver. You know, there's quite a few players in that Georgia team who would look very good in Seahawks blue.
Well, one thing that we haven't talked about, Rob, kickers and punters.
Here we go.
I think I'm pretty sure we're going to need a kicker, and we might even need a punter. Are there any guys that you've been looking at?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because, you know, when you asked me earlier, what is the thing that you're doing differently this year, is the fact that I've actually had to spend some time looking at who are the kickers and the punters in the draft. It's kind of been a position that
the Seahawks have never drafted at that spot.
No, you've never had to even contemplate it. And now you're kind of thinking they might go for both. I think it's better for punters. There are two guys. Michael Dixon, who is the punter at Texas, is pretty good, and I can imagine that he's probably going to go in the round 5, round 6 type region, because he warrants a pick in that kind of range. He's the kind of person that can come in and is very, very talented and is good. The punter at Alabama, J.K. Scott, is another one. You know, they really liked him there, and I can imagine him coming in and having an impact. In terms of kickers, the most well-known kicker in the draft is a guy called Daniel Carlson, who kicks for Auburn, and certainly looks the part. You know, very big, powerful kicker, kind of has linebacker size, great, powerful leg. You know, and a number of 50-yard plus kicks that were successful for Auburn, but his consistency is terrible, and you saw that at the Senior Bowl. Like, there was one kick in the Senior Bowl game where he kind of fluffed his lines from about 25 yards and missed the kick. And then the next kick was 45 yards and he nailed it straight through the middle. And that's who he is. And that's how his final year at Auburn was. He would miss relatively straightforward kicks, and then you would see him nail one from 55 yards, and you think, wow. You know, and I'm not sure that's what the Seahawks really need
I'm
right
out.
now.
I'm out. Yeah, you just scared the bejesus out of me, Rob. I'm out. Nope.
Yeah, you know, I don't think anything else needs to be said about Daniel Carlson. So look, there are some big name veteran kickers who are going to be free agents in a few weeks' time. Just go and get one of those guys who you know what you're going to get.
Why is Rodrigo Blankenship from Georgia, otherwise known as Glasses McKicker, why is he not coming into the draft this year? Because I can't imagine his stock is it's at its highest right now after what he did for Georgia.
Well, you know what? That would be. I think he's a redshirt sophomore, which is, not even Andrew Luck declared as a redshirt sophomore. So that'd be quite the statement if he did. But I kind of wish he did, because that would have given the Seahawks an option there.
First rounder. I mean, why not?
Why not? Go for it. Number 18.
Well, Rob, really want to thank you for coming back on and talking some draft. The combine is the interesting part for me, because I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to watch. I know I can watch guys run fast. I know that I can, the tendencies, it seems, more than most Seahawks fans. I think it would be helpful for those of us who don't watch a lot of the combine, but kind of want to have some kind of primer or, some kind of just something to follow along and look for with some of these positions, because otherwise it's kind of a hard thing to watch for me.
Yeah, it can be a hard thing to watch for, even, people who sort of obsess about these things and watch the combine religiously. And I think that the NFL Network maybe has a duty to try and sort of emphasize what are the things that you need to look for at each position. Now, they did do a thing not so long ago where they had kind of Mike Mayock on their website do a series of videos talking about the types of things you need to look for in each drill. But position-wise, you kind of need to know what to look for. And it does take some, for example, with the running backs for the Seahawks, if anyone's listening to this who's going to be watching the coverage, what you want to be looking for is a guy who's between 5'10" and 6 foot in height, is about 210 pounds to 225. That is the benchmark. That is what the Seahawks have drafted consistently and ever since Pete Carroll came in. And then don't obsess too much if the guy runs a 4.55. Have a look how he does in the vertical jump. Have a look how he does in the broad jump. Have a look how many bench press reps he did. And if you get a good score in those, and if you can do like a good score in the vertical might be like, 37, 38 inch vertical, a good broad jump might be over 10 feet. That's the kind of thing you're looking for. 25 reps on the bench, maybe, 20 reps isn't too bad. That's the kind of thing you need to look for at running backs. If you're going to sort of narrow it down. And in the past, we've been able to really narrow it down. So CJ Prosise was one of about 4 names that they could have drafted when they drafted him. They took him. Chris Carson was one of, I think, even fewer names last year. I think we identified Kamara and Carson and a couple of others maybe who could have been taken by the Seahawks. And in terms of what they've looked for in the past, and obviously it was Chris Carson that they took. And then with the offensive lineman, again, you're looking for the length, you're looking for the size first and foremost, but then have a look at those explosive tests and just see how it correlates, and have a look how they do in the mirror drills. So when they're coming up against defensive linemen, are they sticking with, because they're going to come up against some much more athletic offensive linemen. It's the one thing with Jermaine Ifedi, and as much as people maybe don't appreciate Jermaine Ifedi right now, aren't his biggest fan. When he was coming up against in some of the mirror drills, and he was they had to do sort of the little side step there and the kick step. He looked really strong there, and that's the kind of thing you need to look for. And with the linebackers as well, it's quite intricate. So it's the stuff that they're maybe not going to show on the TV, but they might publish results later. So it's short shuttle. So when you looked at the short shuttles last year, you see people like TJ Watt did very, very well there. Alex Anzalone, who had a very good first year for New Orleans. They're one of the things that you have to look for, because KJ Wright ran a 4.46, which is pretty good for him. Bobby Wagner a 4.28. These are it seems like that short area quickness is one of the things the Seahawks really like in there. And general athleticism is really good as well, but it's that kind of short area quickness and the short shuttle that for a linebacker is what you need to look for. So each different position, and everyone knows about the cornerbacks. They don't need me to tell you that, like long arms and being like 6 foot and a certain height and that kind of thing is what the Seahawks look for there. So, there are different things for every different position, and once you can narrow those down, the combine can be quite fun. It maybe mean that you're looking at spreadsheets rather than the actual TV screen to work out who fits and who doesn't. But once you actually work it out, you can go through those things and you can tally the names. And the thing for the combine for me is it's not going to tell you who's going to be good and who's going to be bad. It's not even going to tell you who the Seahawks are going to draft and who they aren't going to draft. What it does is it highlights some names that you can then go back and have a look at their videos and look at their tape, and you can watch them and you can learn about them. And it may be that there's a guy that you've never even heard of, that the combine catches your eye, and then you go back and watch the tape, and maybe he's terrible on tape and he puts you off him, or maybe he's great and you go, wow, look at this guy that we didn't talk about for the last 6 months. And that's the kind of thing that's the kind of discussion the combine generates.
Well, it will be interesting to watch, and fortunately we don't have to watch the quarterbacks, because I think Adam and I and our drinking game goes, you have to take a shot every time someone says arm talent. So, and that can be dangerous. That can be a dangerous drinking game.
You certainly can.
Well, Rob, really want to thank you for coming back on the show, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again as we get past the combine and get a little bit closer to the draft. So always appreciate you coming on the show.
I'd love to come on, guys, and whenever you want me on, I'm happy to talk some draft.
Excellent. Well, at Rob Staton on Twitter, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Rob, thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
A big thanks once again to Rob Staton coming on the show, talking about the Seahawks and how they're going to be approaching the draft this year. We got some names now of guys to look for coming up in the combine and to maybe break down some tape on. I think Rob has a good handle on this, and we can start maybe getting excited about some other players other than Shaquem Griffin.
Right. Definitely, Rob, let you know that there's some other guys to look at.
I guess so.
And we should maybe slow our roll a little bit and only fall in like with Shaquem and not love.
Because we've seen what happens when you fall in love with a player.
Yeah, it doesn't end well.
Usually doesn't end well.
No.
Speaking of falling in love, Adam.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day coming up.
Yeah.
Last week, we talked about Nectar mattresses. This week, we're talking a little bit more about Nectar mattresses.
Really?
Yeah, SeahawkersPodcast.com/sleep. If you want to check out, we got a promo code built right into that link there. It'll take you to Nectar's website where you can get $125 off a mattress, get some free pillows.
I think it's time for me to pull the trigger on this, Brandan. I woke up and I woke up injured. I went to bed healthy and woke up injured. And I know that's a combination of age.
Yeah.
But I think bed's in play here. Like, my shoulder just hurts for, no reason.
It's absolutely. The bed can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And just looking down the reviews on Nectar's website, the first one here just came in 3 days ago. It says, best purchase in a long time. I've owned the Nectar mattress for about 8 months now, and it is the best purchase I've made for my back. The last few mattresses I've used sleep well for about 5.5, 6 hours, and then the backache would kick in, and I knew it was time to get up. With Nectar, I simply don't want to get up. Honestly, I have to say that this mattress has made a difference in the way I sleep and wake each morning. Best of all, they have a 365-day guarantee. If you don't like it, return it.
Perfect. If that's all the risk is, why aren't you in? Like, I'm asking myself that. That was a rhetorical question for myself.
That's a question to you. Why aren't you in?
Well, so me, I think it's time. I think it's time to pull the trigger.
Seahawkerspodcast.com/sleep. Check it out.
Even though it's going to cost $4,000 to get my car out of the shop, maybe sometime this month if they ever get done with it and quit breaking things while they try to fix things. After that, I spend that $4,000. I might have enough to actually buy a Nectar mattress because they're not unreasonably priced.
Well, the bonus thing is that you can just put in the order online and they deliver it to you. Whereas the car repairman, they're going to expect you to come pick up your own rig.
Well, I have their car.
Oh.
So I view this as a hostage exchange.
Well, that must be fun for you.
It is. I feel like Liam Neeson from Taken. Like every time I get on the phone with the mechanics, like I let him know things, like my brakes worked before. They will work again. And if they don't, I will find you and I will kill you.
The thing is, they probably gave you a more inferior vehicle than your Jeep.
Well, they gave me a new Jeep Compass.
Oh.
And I hate it. I hate it with a passion of 1,000 burning suns. Like some of the dumbest crap in the world. For example, the parking brake engages electronically, okay? So when you start the car, you cannot move the car unless everybody in the car has their seatbelt buckled.
Wow.
You can't move an inch.
You don't even get the choice?
No. Nope. It says no go. Seatbelt or bust.
Wow.
So that's stupid.
That is dumb.
All that has to happen is either that electric motor kicks on and like that electric connection kicks on, keeps the brakes on forever and you can't move and you're screwed. Or the sensor on one of the seatbelts goes bad and you're screwed.
Well, let's talk about the seatbelt thing because this happens. This is a beef that I have with my truck because, coming home from work, I'll swing by the mailbox, pick up the mail, and then I'll drive home. I'm not putting on my seatbelt to drive 1.5 blocks.
This is what I'm saying.
It dings at me the entire way. I know I don't have my seatbelt on, and no, I'm not putting it on because I'm already at home.
This is what I'm saying. And so with my job, when I'm like unloading and loading up gear and doing stuff at the mill, like I have to get in the car and move 10 feet over here, 15 feet over there, like all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And so now I got to buckle up for that crap. It's stupid. Then the other thing that it does, and this is freaking asinine. I don't know what dorky engineer thought up this was like a genius idea. Okay. It has auto shut off of the engine. And what I mean by that is when you go and you stop at a stoplight and you sit for longer than, say, 5 seconds, I don't know what the actual time is, the car turns off. The engine stops.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many times I've stopped like pulling out of a drive-thru or something like that, right? There's a little gap in traffic. I had to wait for 10 seconds. Go to gun it. I got to wait for the freaking car to start before I can drive out there. So you like hit the pedal and it's like, pop, 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 pop. And then you finally go.
Wow.
It is the dumbest freaking feature in the world. And it's like, well, it's supposed to save you gas. Oh, well, wonderful. So it saves me, 15 cents in gas over the lifespan of the car? And now I have to go through 46 starters because it's shutting itself off all the time? What a dumb freaking feature. Now, you can turn it off, but you have to do it every time you're in the car. It automatically turns back on.
Adam, why don't we talk a little more draft?
Okay. What do you got?
Well, we asked Rob about what he thought of last year's draft class. NFL.com, they put out an article here recently saying what they thought of the Seahawks 2017 draft class.
Right. I did see that. They gave him a C. So my question, Brandon, right out of the gate is if we're looking like so there's 32 students in this class, right?
32 teams, yeah, 32 students.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. In this class that everybody's getting graded on, right? So what is the curriculum? What is the criteria for a C, a B, and an A? Like what what to you in your mind, like just taking the Seahawks aside, like if we're just going to speak at it in generalities, what would constitute a C draft in your mind?
Oh, now you're asking me to put criteria on this, and
right.
I thought I had it figured out, but okay. Well,
so to me, it's easy. Two starters. They don't have to be super, like just mid-tier starters at best, and one decent backup, and that's a C draft. In my mind, and
I'd say that's fair. I'd say at the very minimum, going into a draft, you have to find two players who are going to be starters, and one player who's a decent backup.
Right.
Okay. So in that regard, they're saying Ethan Posick and Shaq Griffin are your two starters. And then maybe Nas Jones is a decent backup.
Right. Okay.
And then everybody else you're kind of out on. We're not really sure.
Right. So Chris Carson wasn't a draft hit?
Yeah. I still think you probably don't have quite enough information on him. And the fact that he does look like a hit and he was in the 7th round. Okay. Maybe that bumps it up to a C+. B-.
That makes it. That's a B there. All right, let's think about everybody who is in this draft.
So what's an A for you then?
An A for me is
one Pro Bowler,
one superstar, and a Pro Bowler, and 2 to 3 starters, and then 2 depth guys. Like you pretty much hit on all but one pick.
Okay,
and we didn't get that in this draft class.
No,
and Malik McDowell got hurt too, so like that's hard to judge there in and of itself, right at that point too.
Sure,
I think it's a solid B draft in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we're being nitpicky, but BC, that's probably about right.
No, B is right. C is wrong.
I think the thing that's significant is the fact you had a 2nd rounder that didn't play at all, and I think that's hard to take, even because you look at all those other players that were contributors that you could have had instead of Malik McDowell.
Right. But it's difficult to ding somebody's draft because a guy had an ATV accident.
Oh, yeah.
If, let's say, Malik McDowell was a guy that had blown out his knee 3 times in college, you drafted him, and then in training camp blows out his knee again, yeah, I think you could ding the GM for that, right? But, I mean, Malik McDowell didn't have a history of traumatic head injury. Like this isn't like he hadn't had a bunch of like car accidents or things like that, to our knowledge anyways. Like, so there's no way to predict that. Like it's harder for me to ding an organization for just a random accident than, drafting somebody who say was injury prone and then gets injured again or something along those lines. So I think that's an unfair ding.
Okay.
Even without him, 2 solid starters and a couple of good backups. And Chris Carson. That's a heck of a draft. That's a B.
I'm fine with a B.
All right. As long as we're in agreement in that we also agree that this article was wrong.
Okay. Well, here's what Jeremy Bergman says. He said, it's an odd year when your best draft selection, and this is wrong, was a 7th rounder who missed 3/4 of the season. But that was 2017 in Seattle. No, Chris Carson wasn't the best. Shaq Griffin was.
No. Yes. People are really sleeping on Shaq.
Yeah. And I don't know why. Though limited by injury, Carson flashed the talent to be a workhorse. His poor health opened the door for some young backs, including Mike Davis and J.D. McKissick, but no one outran Russell Wilson. Griffin's selection will prove to be the most important this offseason, as major changes are expected in the leaking Legion of Boom. Posick made the Pro Football Writers of America all-rookie team, filling in at guard, but Pro Football Focus was not fond of his play, next to last among qualified guards. The jury is obviously out on McDowell, who missed the whole year after suffering an injury in an ATV accident, grade C.
Yeah. So Posick makes all rookie team, but is terrible. So
yeah, because he's going with Pro Football Focus.
Right.
So he's obviously not watched any of these players.
No.
He's just looking at grades, yeah.
Which I get. I mean,
that's hard to do, yeah. 49ers get an A, though.
Well, of course they do. They're the golden child right now. Everybody loves John Lynch.
Well, they had a number 3 pick overall. So congrats.
Yeah,
you hit on
and
that.
They picked high in every round, otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations on crushing something you should have crushed.
Yeah, they had 2 picks in the first round. No wonder they got an A. Reuben Foster and Solomon Thomas.
Exactly.
And George Kittle was a good pick in round 5.
Yeah, I'm not dogging the Niners draft. I'm just saying, they got good players.
But really, as far as legitimate starters go.
No, that's an A, and the Seahawks are a C, Brandon.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand.
I'm just trying to work
works.
this out. So Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas, Akella Witherspoon, you got 3 solid starters there. And George Kittle, maybe borderline starter. He started half the games.
Yeah.
And then Adrian Colbert, too, started half.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out why that's an A. You know, what the criteria fits.
Yeah, see, it's not on the syllabus. It's not on the class syllabus. Like what the criteria is for an A, B, and C. That's why I asked you. That's why I asked before we even started the discussion.
I'm glad you started with that.
Yeah.
I think you can make a case that the 49ers had an A draft.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, let's compare to another team. Let's look at the Rams.
Catfish! The Rams, dude.
Yeah. Always and forever.
Catfish!
The Rams.
Yeah.
They get a B+. Catfish!
Rams.
How did they get a B+?
Because Sean McVay's handsome.
Oh, my gosh. Good start for Les Snead in the first year of the Sean McVay era, considering the Rams' first rounder in 2017 was spent to acquire Jared Goff in 2016. Are they including that? Come on. Everett and Kupp were both key cogs in the highest scoring offense in the NFL, with Kupp quickly developing into Goff's favorite target.
Yeah, developing to a dude with the drops.
And making the Pro Football Writers of America all-rookie team. So Kupp makes the all-rookie team, and it's the greatest thing ever. Ethan Posing makes it, but, Pro Football Focus poo-pooed that.
Dude, everybody was so in love with Cooper Kupp before the season started, it wasn't even funny.
And he's their one guy. Kupp is the one guy where you legitimately look at, and John Johnson at safety. Okay, he had 11 starts this year. You got 2 guys. You got 2 starters. Mm-hmm. You got 2 starters. You have Gerald Everett. He had 2 starts. He might be an okay player.
So a rotational backup guy, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Or either him or Tanzel Smart, who had 4 starts on the defensive line.
Right. Okay.
Who was probably about as equal as Naz Jones for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe lesser even.
So unless you're including the fact that you gave up a first to get Jared Goff, that's the only way I could see bumping it up.
To be significantly higher, a grade and a half above the Seahawks?
Yeah, yeah.
I told you the scale's BS, dude.
It is BS. He's not sticking to the scale.
No.
Who else?
Somebody needs to send him the scale.
Who else gets and he gives the Cardinals a C-.
Well, that's generous.
No, Hassan Reddick.
Did they draft a quarterback last year?
No, they needed to.
Then it's an F.
Yeah, that should be. No, that's right. Actually, it's how he leads it off. The Cardinals choosing not to take a quarterback in any round of last year's draft was pure negligence. And they get dinged a half a grade down to C-.
Yeah. No, same otherwise as the Seahawks.
Well, we can grade him on it. This is an F article.
That's a D+.
That's true. He got the Niners grade right.
Right. But overall, it's below average.
Well, good. Now people don't have to read it. They can just go off what we had to say.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Well, Adam, before we move on, man, condolences to Frank Clark and his family this last week.
Oh, man. No kid.
Father, 3 other family members die in a fire. That was sad to see.
Yeah. Nobody wishes that on anybody, like that really stinks. And thoughts to all those, to Frank Clark and his whole family. And
it looked like arson too, or at least.
Oh, really?
Well, that's what Clark said.
Oh,
but I don't think there's been any investigation that's come out and said that yet.
I see. Man, that's tough. It always baffles me a little bit when people die in like a house fire. Like I feel like it should be something that you should be able to get out of, right? Until I go to the city.
Yeah.
And, everything's so packed in and high rises and there's not fire escapes to everywhere. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. You can't just jump out of the window.
Right. Like that'd be a tough way to go, man.
I'm glad my house didn't burn down this last week.
Did you give it a shot?
No, I have a dryer. It's only 2.5 years old, and the little widget on the control board that controls the heating element, it exploded and melted. Yeah, and it actually caught on fire.
Yeah, this is just like cars, Brandon. They've advanced too far, and there's too much stuff to go wrong with this electronic stuff. Like I'll give you here's a pro tip about dryers.
Get an old one.
Our good buddy Lency, growing up through high school, he became an engineer.
Yeah.
And he worked for Maytag for a little while. This is what he told me about washers and dryers because he worked in that division.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the new washers, the bomb. Like, they work way better than the old school washers. He goes, but if you want to get a quality dryer, go buy an old dryer. He goes, they're much better, much more reliable. You don't have any of this crap. They work better. Not very many moving parts. He's like, get an old dryer. They're better.
I'm going to do that, though. I think I'm going to look into an old dryer because what I found out is that apparently the control board for my dryer has been discontinued. The guy who came over to do the fixes, he's like, well, these are probably, and this is the second one we've gone through. He's like, well, clearly they didn't make enough of them because now that it's a defective part and they went through all of them, probably going to be getting a new dryer.
So here's the thing. You want to hear story number 2 from our engineer friend, Lindsay?
Okay.
I'll let you know something.
This will be appliance and this will be appliance section of the Seahawkers podcast.
Well, this just goes to engineering practices when it comes to mass-produced things that you buy. So he also worked for Lexmark in Kentucky for a short period of time. And this was right after school. And he was, tasked to design some piece parts for little inkjet printers and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And he'd come back to his head engineer with his design. And the guy would look at him and be like, this is over-engineered. And he'd be like, what are you talking about? He goes, this will last forever. And he goes, well, yeah, that's the point. He goes, no. You need to engineer this differently so that it breaks in 6 months.
Of course.
Like, for real. That's what he was told to do so that it would break. So then you would have to now replace the printer with another printer.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with your washer, dude. Like, they make it so these control boards fritz out. My mom had her control board fritz out. Like, and suddenly we just didn't produce enough of them to fix the part. So guess you have to buy a whole new one. Sorry about your luck. It's all part of the conspiracy, man.
Well, there you go. Do like I did and get the extended warranty, but maybe instead of doing it both on the washer and dryer, you just do it on the dryer.
Apparently. Yeah.
Because that's the only thing saving me from getting a new dryer now. And now actually they're going to have to pay for it. Which, there's another beef that I had.
Oh, okay.
I called up.
I like this. I like it when you're fired up for a change. All right.
I almost put it in my do better, but
what did they do to you, Brandon? What did they do?
Okay, well, you pay for the service of the warranty, right?
Okay.
And you call up and you say, okay, it's broken. Come fix it.
Right.
They call me back and they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have any people in that area who are available in the next few weeks. So do you want to call around and try and find somebody who can come and fix it? No, I don't. That's why I paid you. I want you to call around and find somebody who can come and fix my dryer. Why should I have to do this?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Instead, and I'm like, okay, so how do I go and how do you want me to go about finding a qualified person to come work on this? I'm like, well, you can go to Google and you can type in, I'm like, I get one result.
And not only that, aren't you taking notes when you're talking yourself here? Like this person giving you the advice on how to find somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be the one that is doing
Why
this.
Why can't
like
you do
said.
this?
Right. If you know how to do it, then do it.
Exactly.
Do your job.
Why? That was my exact point. Why am I doing your job?
So I don't often unload on. I know I sound super ranty and stuff on the podcast and everything, but in real life, I think you've seen Brandon, like, pretty patient when it comes to doing stuff in public. I don't dress people down or anything. Or
right. You're like, a normal. You're a normal person in real life.
Yeah, like I'm very.
You save your frustration for those interactions for this show.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So I called and left a nastygram this morning because I got a text last night saying that the part that they told me it was to fix my brakes wasn't the part, even though the brakes worked when I brought it in. They're just broken now because they broke them. This is now the third part that they had tried to fix whatever it is that they broke on the brakes. And now they tell me that I need a front caliper and a brake line, but they can't procure one until next week.
Oh.
So I go a whole nother week without my freaking car. So I called up and I left a nastygram, and it sounded a lot like this. I called around to the parts stores in Missoula. There's the part you need at AutoZone. All they need is to know these two measurements on the brake line, and voila, you can have it. So tomorrow, I expect a phone call saying, I went to AutoZone, got parts, put them in your Jeep, and fixed it. So why am I the one who has to find the parts?
Right.
Do your job. It's the same thing, man.
Yeah.
I feel your pain. Why do we have to do everything?
Why are we stuck doing your work for you?
It's unreal.
All right, moving on. I want to welcome some new members of the flock, Adam.
Awesome. I was starting to get concerned.
Well, one new member of the flock. We didn't get skunked.
One's better than I'll take one every single week. One makes me feel good.
And I haven't seen Dave yet in the Ring of Honor, but Dave Weiss, welcome to the flock. In at the $6 level.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, welcome to the flock, dude. Not in the Ring of Honor, though, huh?
Well, I gave him the invite. I just haven't seen him yet.
You know what? I'm not even going to bust his balls. He's cool enough to help sponsor us on Patreon.
Oh, yeah,
too cool to hang out with us, and that's okay.
That's okay.
I'm actually, unless there's an outcry from this announcement right here, I think I'm going to give up Facebook for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I'm over it. I don't think it's doing anything good for me for the most part, except for the Ring of Honor. That's really the only thing that I've kept it around for.
Yeah.
I hardly even check it anymore. I think I'm over the Facebook. So unless there's a large outcry from the listeners about me doing that are in the Ring of Honor or whatever, I think I'm shut it down for a while.
I like that, going out after all the congratulatory posts about 1 million downloads, and you're like, okay, now I'm leaving on top of the game right now.
It's what I'm dropping the mic. I'm basically Jordan after his second retirement.
There you go.
Nailing the jumper, hand in the air over Byron Russell. Iconic.
It's the way to do it.
I don't know. I could be persuaded out of it.
You might miss hanging out with Dave in the Ring of Honor.
Well, now, see, there's a compelling argument.
Do we say what? We need 2 more Ring of Honor members by next week, or you're out?
Okay. Yeah. You're right. I'm so passionate about this. This is how it has to be, Brandon. I need 2 more members to get in the flock next week, or I'm done with Facebook forever.
So if you want to keep Adam around on Facebook, get in the flock. Getintheflock.com.
Be afraid. Be very afraid. That's a legit threat.
I think we do have some people, some open spots at the $6 level, too. So you can get in on the Active 53.
Absolutely, man.
Well, those people who are in the flock, we have our Pick'em League winners that I wanted to announce.
Oh, the cheaters, right. Okay, cool. I'm glad that you brought it up.
No, these aren't cheaters. They did it the right way.
Yeah, the right cheating way.
I guess. Well, they beat you. They beat me.
Yeah, cheating.
And most of us. Way. But we did notice that I think we have 5 people who weren't in the top 5 last year. And so that's a good thing.
So new cheaters?
New cheaters.
Congratulations to you guys, though. This is a tough year to pick. And a lot of you guys really crushed it all year.
John in Fayetteville, Arkansas gets the top spot. Gets the Walter Jones jersey, the Buck Knives, that's engraved, the 2017 Seahawkers Podcast Pick'em Champion.
How freaking cool is that?
That's cool. A big thanks to Daniel Weinholtz at Buck Knives for making that happen.
Oh, man. Yeah, Daniel's awesome. And, been a listener and a contributor to the show for so long. And then on top of that, to kind of go through his work and get a really cool knife donated now 2 years in a row to give away. Couldn't say thanks more. And I have a feeling that a dude named John in Arkansas is going to enjoy that knife.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that feels like a good home.
That is. Well, it was Alaska last year, now Arkansas.
Yeah.
It feels like the knife's going to places where it should.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think John wanted a couple boxes of Baldwin Smacks being in Arkansas, not being able to get them down there, so I'll send those along too. John sent along an email, said, after the recent episode, I feel I need to respond. I knew Adam came to Arkansas, and true, I didn't message you to hang out, but as a host, I feel you should have sensed a Seahawks fan in the area.
Oh, I didn't use my Spidey Hawkra?
You didn't use your Spidey Hawkra. That being said, I would be more than happy to treat you to several PBRs the next time you are in Northwest Arkansas.
Wonderful. Oh, okay. So Fayetteville's in Northwest Arkansas. Yeah. All right.
I'm excited.
So I was a little ways from there. I will say, going to Western Arkansas as opposed to like Central or Eastern Arkansas, I kind of get it. That's nice country over there.
Okay.
You got something that resembles a mountain, some rivers that actually have some flow to them, some trees, a little bit of, I liked it. I got it. So that's a cool area. I could see myself hanging out there.
Okay, so you weren't in the right radius to have the Hawkra Spidey sense.
No, that's just it. It only has a 100-mile range.
Yeah. Well, John says, I'm excited for the win. Happy to chat with you all and look forward to winning it all again next year. Talk to y'all later. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. He ain't winning next year.
No. You're going to win next year.
Yeah, because I'm going to Fayetteville and I'm going to shank him with his own knife so he can't win.
And steal his secrets?
Yes. All his cheating secrets. Yeah. That's what I'm doing.
Second place goes to John Shin. So if you finished, you had to be named John to finish in the top 2 this year.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And John wins the Steve Largent jersey. I have an autographed photo that I need to send him for the Week 15 tie that he had. And, of course, some Baldwin smacks for him, too.
That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations, other John. But I have it on good authority that the Russians meddled in the Pick'em League.
In the
this
Pick'em
year.
League? They hacked the Pick'em League?
John's a double agent.
Ooh.
So that's how he got in. As the second, or was he second place?
Second place, yeah.
Yeah.
He got the Largent jersey.
Mm-hmm. That's how it worked. He's a Russian agent, and the Russians influenced the points. Okay, well,
we need to make the Seahawkers Podcast Pick'em League great again next year and get this figured out.
Yeah, I need a Bob Mueller for the Pick'em League.
Who would that be?
I don't know.
Maybe
yet.
An impartial person that wasn't in the top 5. Maybe we get Adam Nathan.
I think it could be. Yeah. Oh, maybe. I was thinking of a couple listeners though, like Dave Bloomquist goes deep on all his Patriots stuff, so I know he's got some investigative chops.
Yeah. As long as he's not influenced by the Chinese government, though, being in Hong Kong.
Look, he's our special agent over there. Stop bringing that up.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. Jeez. Don't blow his cover. But, we do. We need a special investigative council to root out this Russian influence.
You know, there might have been something that happened, and I think Ross has an explanation for why he didn't get second place. Because he picked the Patriots, he lost. So, Harvin, the time of my life, Ross Bell ends up in third place. He has a Lofa Tutupu signed mini helmet coming his way.
Dude, that'd be sweet.
I know.
I bet you Ross will dig that.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't, the bummer.
Too bad you couldn't get something flatter to send to England.
No.
Yeah.
But I was really looking hard for a Cassius Marsh something. Because Ross is a huge Cassius Marsh guy.
Yeah.
And I looked and looked, but he's also a Lofa Tutupu guy, so.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that works out wonderfully then.
So, but Ross emailed in, says, Jeff Fisher owes me a jersey. Says, hey guys, I spent an entire season picking games pretty successfully in the Patreon Pick'em League, only to be taken out at the final hurdle by Jeff Fisher. Confused? So was my wife. We all remember the hugely successful Jeff Fisher era Rams. In 2016, he made a decision that cost me big time. He cut stupid Nick Foles. Damn it, Jeff. Before I get lost in thinking about the alternate reality where Fisher is still the Rams head coach, I'm going to just say congrats to John, who beat me to second place in the picks by going against the football gods and back the Eagles. Thanks for the great season of podcast, guys. Go Hawks, from Ross.
So he doesn't. Andy Reid gets no blame here? It's just Jeff Fisher?
Just Jeff Fisher, I guess.
Because Andy Reid is the one who rebuilt Nick Foles for Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
And then shipped him off to Philly.
Ross didn't go that deep. Maybe that'll be in the extended version of his email.
But congratulations for third, Ross. That's good. Good by you.
You know what?
I'm glad
Ross
that Seahawkers podcast hosts somewhere, whether that's the UK version or our version or wherever, is in the top. Like we needed one of us. Way to represent, dude.
Yeah, it is a little bit disappointing that you and Ross won't have your matching Largent jerseys hanging on the wall, but
no. But what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Fourth place, Hawks dozen, Aaron Hood. Aaron's gonna get a Cliff Averill signed mini helmet in the mail.
That's awesome. I can't think of anybody more deserving. I can't even talk trash about Erin because she's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
I've got no trash talk for her.
And then Jeff Lamont. This is another person you can't talk trash about because he sent us the Christmas book that he wrote a while back, a couple years back. Jeff Lamont, caught with your pants down, gets a Jim Zorn signed mini helmet.
Ooh, I like the old the throwback there. Now is it the New style, or is it the old silver style helmet?
This is the old silver style. Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jeff gets a super. I like Jeff's prize. I hope Jeff enjoys that.
See, what I did, and I'm still waiting to hear from the Blue and Green Mile on favorite players, but for the people 3rd through 6th place, I asked who their favorite players. Give me a list of 5 or 6 of your favorites, and then I said I would find an autographed item from one of those players, and for each one, I was able to work it out.
You're an amazing prize giver.
I'm trying.
Yeah, you're very accommodating. I'm glad you're doing that. Everybody would have gotten a Hauschka jersey. Yeah, like if I would have been in charge.
Yeah, from the discount bin at TJ Maxx.
Yeah, not signed or nothing.
No, of course not. And you wouldn't care what size they get. No, you need
whether they're male or female.
You
none
need
of
an
that.
XL,
Nope.
but here's a small.
Yeah, nothing.
Deal with it.
Just no cares given.
Yeah,
told you you'd get something in the mail. There it is.
There it
Be
is.
happy.
Be happy.
So I'm glad you're doing this. You have a lot more compassion.
I think maybe the listeners will be more happy. But there are members of the flock. We got to take care of them.
That's a good point. They take care of us. We got to take care of them.
Yeah. A couple emails came in from our members of the flock. First one.
Oh, thank God. Somebody needs to carry this show.
Yeah, I know. First one here from John, Master Guns at the Pentagon.
Yeah, all right.
John says, I hereby request possibly the largest Hakra cleansing in the history of the organization.
Oh, no.
It has become a well-known fact among the 12ers that know me that I am solely and entirely responsible for the Hawks' lack of appearance in the Super Bowl. It is a matter of documented history that during each and every appearance in the big show by our beloved Hawks, I've either been deployed to or living in the Middle East. Now, either fortunately or unfortunately, those from my hometown of Chehalis and the surrounding countryside have made note of this, and as a result, there is a movement afoot to have me relocated, either voluntarily or otherwise, back to the locales of a more eastern nature.
No!
I've always been a big proponent of when required, one should always take one for the team. Please, in the name of all things holy and sacred, assist me in this cleansing, as I fear not doing so could prove disastrous for the realm, as I will be returning to the area for good just as our next season begins.
Oh, no. Okay. So
returning to Chehalis, right?
Yeah, right. So I'm wondering, do we need to cleanse like Chehalis, like do a Hakra cleansing there, so when he gets there,
it's all ready
to go, or do we need to cleanse his personal Hakra for his travels and for his new home? I don't know. I got to give this some thought, because what I can't have is Master Guns getting redeployed just so we have a good season.
You know what we need is
I don't need that.
We need some of our service members who are over in the Middle East right now to get a little jar and bring back some of the sand from the Middle East, and then we can sprinkle it on. We can do the Hakra cleansing at the time as we're sprinkling some of the sand from the Middle East on John's property in Chehalis.
Yes.
And I feel like that will make the universe right once again somehow.
Dude, that was genius.
Yeah.
You are truly a patron saint of the Church of Hakra. There's no doubt about it.
Just trying to work this out.
Yeah, you are obviously one of the founding members. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
we're gonna we'll get Master Guns taken care of then.
I know there must be some deployed listeners that can help make this happen.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, moving on. Joel Prosser, Washington, a.k.a. Smurf Hunter, apparently. I think he's emailed in before with that handle.
Yes.
Yeah. Love the show. Where else can I get some amazing rants that Adam provides week in and week out, which make me drive like Jeremy Lane from laughing and wiping away the tears of joy it provides?
Well, good.
After watching the Eagles end Tom's bid for another Super Bowl victory in hopes of more Eagles fans climbing more Criscoed light poles, I have a do better and a better at life. My do better is for Chris Collinsworth. Shut the hell up. He's the only announcer that makes me think, I wish they had Troy Aikman on this broadcast.
Oh, God, no. I take Collinsworth before I take Aikman every time.
Enough with the relentless commentaries on the catch rule. Zach Ertz had clearly secured the ball, taken 3 to 4 steps before being leap tackled across the goal line. Clearly a runner by the time he crossed the goal line in every aspect of the rule. Shut up. Please retire.
I don't know, man. That if they had overturned that touchdown, I would not have been stunned.
That's the problem with it.
I know.
Because it was clearly a catch.
I understand.
Yeah.
But like for Collinsworth and Michaels to look at that and be like, that could get overturned, I don't think they were off their skis on that one.
Well, I'm glad they didn't overturn either of them because they were both catches.
Critical? Yeah.
Yeah, well, they were critical, but they were both catches too.
Yeah. What did your daughter say?
Absolutely.
I nominate her to be the minister of catches. I really do.
Yeah, I think it should happen. My better life has changed up a bit. My better life than Chris Collinsworth goes to Skip Bayless because Skip was probably at a Super Bowl party yelling, "Shut the hell up" to Chris Collinsworth too. Thanks again. P.S. This is from a fan that had no rooting interest for either team except wanting to see a good game and enjoy some pizza rolls.
See, me and the Smurf Hunter were on the same page.
On the same wavelength in this game, except for you weren't as annoyed by Collinsworth.
Correct. That's probably because I was drunk enough.
And finally, one here from Patrick in Sacramento says, "Hey, enjoy the show and renewed my Patreon." I guess his card info got stolen. It was the Russians. They hacked. Not only did they hack the Pick'em League, they hacked Patrick's card.
I knew it.
Yeah, Patrick says, but I had a question. Last year, there was a poll on the all Seahawks team. This caused a huge conversation at my office with the other Seahawk fan that I work with. I don't remember, though, if the results were ever announced. Was it part of an episode? Let me know, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man.
Yeah, this kind of fell off. This was something that kind of went a little bit longer into the offseason. By the time we were able to pick it up, it was already preseason. So what I think we have to figure out, Adam, is if we just go with the straight results that we had last year, or we bring in some, we put the survey out there to try and get some more results before we could spend some time on the offseason talking about it this year.
Yeah, I mean, if that's something that people are super interested in, I'm going to be 100% honest. It doesn't really float my boat that much.
We didn't get a ton of votes either.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. It didn't seem to tickle a lot of people's brains, but it did a few.
Yeah.
But if that is something that we want to explore and people are into it, like, I'd be happy to do that. But we do need to come up with whatever our big offseason project will be, kind of like we did the Seahawks You Oughta Know a while back, and something along those lines.
We do need an offseason project. So email in. Let us know. Do we go back to the all Seahawks team? Do you have another thing for Adam and I to focus on in the offseason? That's one of the things that helps us get through the offseason. When we know there's something you want and we can deliver it. Absolutely, man. And it may just be angry Adam rants about not getting his Jeep fixed.
Where's my car?
Dude, where's my car? On that note, it's going to do better.
All right, my do better this week, Brandon, is for a young college traveler who is traveling home over the Christmas break and got on an airplane at the Baltimore airport. She was flying Spirit Airlines. Her name is Belen Aldacosia. Now, apparently, she had, I guess, a pet guinea pig hamster thing.
Oh, this one isn't the service Peacock that somebody brought on the plane?
No. This was her pet, Pebbles, and she had her for a couple years. And she was had to head home for the break. Didn't have a lot of other options to get home, so she called Spirit a couple weeks out, and she was told no problem to bring her hamster on the plane in its little cage. Like no biggie.
Yeah.
And so when she got there, Spirit Airlines told her, you can't bring the pet dwarf hamster on the plane. Can't do it. So in distress, she goes all over the place looking for a rental car, trying to figure out a different way to leave Baltimore and all of that. Strikes out, apparently, on everything. And the attendant supposedly said, well, you're going to have to get rid of her. Just flush her.
What?
So after all her soul searching and, for hours, Belen took her beloved Pebbles, put it in the toilet, and flushed her away.
Wow.
Yeah, she said, quote, she was scared. I was scared. It was horrifying trying to put her in the toilet. I was emotional. I was crying. I sat there for a good 10 minutes crying in the stall. Now she's filing a lawsuit against the company. Here's the thing, okay?
But the company did tell her to flush it.
Allegedly. But Even if they told you to flush your pet, your beloved pet, are you flushing your pet, Brandon?
No.
Hell no. You find a different way. You're telling me you can't put pebbles in a box and mail it FedEx to you? Like overnight?
There's at least a chance of survival that way.
A huge chance of survival. Yes, I would say 90%.
Right.
Like, you don't have to sit there and, terrify this poor animal, flush her down the toilet in the Baltimore airport, and then have that emotional distress on yourself the whole time because somebody suggested to you should flush your hamster down the toilet. Think for yourself. Don't flush your pets down the toilet live for no reason. So to Bella and Aldacosia, take some personal responsibility and do better. Don't flush hamsters.
Don't flush hamsters.
That's sad too, man.
Yeah, you don't have to do it.
Can you imagine that little thing like screaming?
That's pretty messed up, though, that they said it was cool and then they said it was not cool.
Yeah, who knows?
There's a lot we don't know about this. Just as there's a lot that we don't know about this situation with Josh McDaniels and the Colts. I think there's some things that are starting to come out.
I know that Josh McDaniels is going to succeed Bill Belichick. I know that.
I don't have a problem necessarily with what Josh McDaniels did.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can take over the Patriots, going to the Colts was probably one of the worst options. And I think we're starting to see why now, because general manager Chris Ballard on the Wednesday news conference, when he went out to talk about McDaniels not getting the job and how they're going to go on with their search, he closed that press conference by saying the rivalry is back on.
Yeah.
Rivalry with the Patriots? It's like
there was a Colts Patriots rivalry there for a while with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning.
They played one game where they lost the AFC Championship to the Patriots with Andrew Luck. Yeah, okay, there was that time when Peyton Manning was there. You know when that was? The last time the Indianapolis Colts beat Tom Brady and the Patriots was 2009. Do you know where Chris Ballard was, the GM of the Colts, the current GM of the Colts? Do you know where he was in 2009?
Was he playing tight end somewhere?
He was the Southwest area scout for the Bears the last time that the Colts beat the Patriots. He has no memory of this supposed rivalry. Stop embarrassing yourself and do better.
Oh, I disagree. I love that he ended that press conference with that.
That's lame.
Like, there's some bad blood. There's some bad blood, and he's going to start stirring it up. He's going to start bringing in an attitude and a culture into the Colts, and that sports hate that you have for a bitter rival. I like it. He's aiming high.
The Colts need to do better for their franchise.
Well, lots going to depend on the shoulder health of Andrew Luck, and if I had been Josh McDaniels, that would have terrified me.
Well, he was clearly spooked by something, whether or not it was Irsay having, too much say into what was going on, or.
Oh no, he wasn't spooked by anything. He got a call from Robert Kraft, and Robert Kraft said, "Hey, guess what? There's no salary cap on what I pay coaches. I'll pay you right. You can stay here whenever it is Bill decides he's done. The job is yours. Stay part of the family. Kiss the ring." That's what he did. This was some Godfather catfish right here.
One of the latest articles by ESPN said that Bill Belichick has agreed to involve him more in the decision making. So more of the GM type stuff that Belichick does now.
There you go.
So now it'll just be a better opportunity for him to get experience on the GM side now too.
Absolutely.
So I think he's probably making the right call. It screws the Colts a little bit, but whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of made his agent look bad.
Whatever, man. You got to do what you got to do. It's a business.
Well, it's on his agent a little bit, too, for not talking to his guy.
Dude, these teams are brutal to players and coaches, like, all the time.
Yeah.
And so one team got, sort of backstabbed once. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, well, it's kind of an ongoing thing because the Colts were the ones that dimed out the Patriots as being Deflategate cheaters.
Yes.
So it twists back at them a little bit.
Rivalry.
Yeah. Although not in the sense of actual, winning games.
Right.
On to better life.
All right, Brandan, my better at life than Skip Bayless this week is for Superwood.
Superwood?
That's right, Superwood. Get your mind out of the gutter. I know exactly what you all are thinking. This is not some sort of Viagra-induced situation, okay? Like, I'm talking about Superwood. But I really did enjoy the headline of this article. Stronger than steel, able to stop a speeding bullet. It's Superwood.
Superwood.
Yeah. So there's some scientists that have recently figured out how to make wood as strong or close to as strong as steel. It's way lighter, and it's a renewable resource.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty freaking cool. What they did is they took the wood, they boiled it in sodium hydroxide and sodium sulfate, and basically that's the same stuff that you make pulp for paper. That's when you boil wood for that, like wood chips and stuff. Same concoction.
I think the word you're looking for is nanocellulose.
Thank you. Yes, it breaks it down on the nanocellulose level, allowing them to then compress the wood and making it ultra dense. And it's amazing when it's all said and done. Think of all the things that they could use this for. You know, whether that's just in the building of cars, even. Your bumper in 10 years could be made out of compressed wood. Superwood.
Oh, I've heard this talked about maybe even like bulletproof vests for police officers and military.
Yes, it has similar characteristics to Kevlar and is way cheaper to make. I mean, they've got a long ways to go to get it to be
viable,
to make it a commercially viable process, but they're on the way. So to researchers that have made Superwood, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
I like that they're calling it Superwood. That is
me
catchy.
Too. That's mainly the whole reason why I did that as my better at life, is just because it was called
just so you could say Superwood on the show.
Exactly.
Hey,
I'm a fan of Superwood.
I get it. I understand now. My better at life this week is for a product of Bellingham, Washington, and I'm talking about Doug Peterson, head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Not only he won the Super Bowl, so that's kind of big, a Washington resident. Kind of too bad that it's the Eagles, but it's fine. That's where he's head coach. But I love the preparation that went in before the game. I love the fact that he didn't take his foot off the gas. He trusted his players to get the job done. They had a couple fourth down conversions. They had trick plays involved. But what I really like, Adam, is the fact that the preparation included the assumption that the Patriots are cheaters. And this was thanks to an interview from their long snapper.
Did Dave Bloomquist put you up to this?
Dave Bloomquist had a little bit. I was already thinking it before I saw it from Dave Bloomquist, but he definitely pushed me a little bit. But there's an article that Rick Lovato, the long snapper for the Eagles, he was on a radio station in Tampa, and he broke the fact that they had a walkthrough right before the Super Bowl. It was in Minneapolis. And they purposefully didn't run any of their plays during that walkthrough. It was a fake walkthrough, just in case the Patriots were looking on and trying to pick something up before the game. So they had it all planned out that if the Patriots were going to try and cheat, that they had a plan for it just in case. And for that, Doug Peterson, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Damn, that's some counterintelligence crap right there.
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. That's some next level thinking. So when Doug Peterson's out of football, is his next
he can be like
going to be like head
strategy.
of the CIA or something? Like, yeah.
He needs to be involved in some secret military strategy type stuff.
Doug Peterson has some spycraft to him.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to beat Belichick.
Is he the James Bond of NFL coaches?
Do we need to worry about the Eagles next year?
No.
Okay.
Good luck with the Eagles next year. I was thinking about that a little bit, Brandon. Who beat the Eagles this year?
We did.
With Carson Wentz.
Yeah. We did.
Right.
Seahawks.
Yeah. Do you feel like their roster is really more talented than the Seahawks roster, front to bottom?
Yeah, we're
well. If you use the right words, top to bottom or front to back, not front to bottom.
Front to bottom.
That doesn't really work.
I like front to bottom, top to back.
Yeah, top to back, front to bottom.
Yeah.
You think their roster is really physically better, top to back?
Top to back. Well, and we're going to see too now that they're the Super Bowl champs. Which
because I don't.
I We beat them, so
I think it's a very similar roster.
We're capable.
Yeah. So no, they don't concern me next year. We just gotta not have every one of our good dudes get hurt. Oh, and have just a couple offensive linemen
and a kicker.
Right.
Yeah, we don't need this big turnover that everybody's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We just need enough dudes to turn over.
Exactly. Is this a rebuild or a reload, people?
Reloading.
Hell yeah. We're coming out guns blazing next year, and we'll be king of the birds next year, once again, like we're supposed to.
Why don't we just sign LeGarrette Blount, and we can get him another ring? Because apparently if you sign LeGarrette Blount, you're getting a ring. Yeah,
he is a good luck charm, isn't he?
LeGarrette Blount, Chris Long.
But then we'd have to hear about Blunt mode all the time.
Yeah.
But I think I'm in, if that means a championship.
Yeah, I'd deal with that.
He ain't leaving the Eagles.
He's 31 years old now.
Yeah. He's still played effectively, though. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Part-time power back.
I don't know. I'm telling you, I would go for Carlos Hyde before I went for him.
Just do both.
No, you got to have offensive linemen too, Brandan.
Do you?
Yes.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
We need an offensive lineman.
That's probably true.
Oh, and go Hawks.
I was wondering if you're going to get that in there.